Good morning. Thank you. I'm really pleased to be the moderator of what I hope you will find to be not only informative but entertaining. We've got an excellent panel of experts, who I'm going to introduce to you in just a moment. But one of the things you're going to notice probably about this panel is we're going to use more slides and video than you may have seen yesterday. And the reason for that is because this session is all about communications. And we wanted to be able to show you some examples of the great work that's going on in the area of building awareness and education. We have panelists from the public and private sectors, from the U.S., and from Europe, and from Poland, Turkey, and India. I think this is a perfect illustration that the need for awareness and education on counterfeiting and piracy and IP in general is indeed a global issue. Before I introduce the panel, I want to set up the topic with a little background. As some of you are probably aware, awareness and education has been on the agenda of every Congress since the first one. And that's important. It is recognized as a critical element of the fight against counterfeiting and piracy, and an area that needs more attention and more effort. While this panel is going to focus primarily on the consumer aspects of education and awareness, the need for education and awareness on our issues is not limited to the consumer. As a matter of fact, we need to do more education, more awareness building among public officials, even among business executives and business leaders, and among decision makers across all aspects of this issue. We also need to do more than just focus on the demand side for counterfeit products and pirated products. As you've heard some speakers yesterday talk about, there's increasing attacks on intellectual property rights and the value of intellectual property. And part of the education and awareness effort, though we won't talk too much about it today, really is an education effort that's needed to build greater awareness of the value of IP and to show people why it's important to protect intellectual property rights. BASCAP, if you stop by our booth in the exhibit area, has done a number of reports in this area as part of that education work, especially targeted at public officials. But I'm sure you're going to hear others talk about the other aspects of the need to build education around around the value of IP. This problem is well documented. Consumers do not see counterfeiting and piracy as a major problem, and they readily admit to buying counterfeit goods or downloading music and video from illegal websites. If I can have the slides, let me see the first slide here. This is, you don't really need to be able to see the numbers. The point I want to make is the first two pieces of each bar show the how consumers feel about buying counterfeit goods. The average across the 5 countries shows that a combination of over 85% of the consumers acknowledged that they had purchased counterfeit goods at some point. The country results obviously are right below that, showing the results in India, Russia, Mexico, Korea, and the UK, which is where we did this BASCAP study back in 2009. And the other, this again is a chart that's not an eye test. You don't really need to be able to read it. But the blue chart shows a breakdown of those numbers based on age, and the orange and yellow bars show it based on income levels. Again, you can see even in the UK, the most developed country on this list of countries where we surveyed, the age and income really do not make much of a difference in terms of consumers' habits when it comes to buying counterfeit goods. And we can share these results with you in detail if you're interested. These results have been duplicated now in several other countries since we did this BASCAP study. I think Brian's going to refer to some work that was done by his organization more recently. And you'll hear from one of the other panelists, Paul Meyer, about work that the EU Observatory is embarking on in this area as well, that will be done in all of the EU member states. We used our research as the basis for developing messages that would resonate with consumers to help convince them to stop participating in buying counterfeits and illegal downloading. We decided on a straightforward message of fakes cost more, I buy real. And you can see that on these posters and brochures that we've done. Our logo that we selected, again based on the research, is a thumbs up, thumbs down logo that becomes a critical part of this dual message about fakes cost more, I buy real. We did more research to ensure consumers understood this message, and we've been using it ever since the research was done in this basic set of print ads and posters and brochures. Our approach has been to provide these core messages and the logo and some basic examples of how they can be used in practical materials to any organization, public or private, that wants to do their own awareness program. Thus far, our materials have been translated into more than 30 languages, and they're being used now in more than 10 countries, and that's growing every month. We welcome more partners to join with us, and you can find the information on the website, www.ibuyreal.org. This is the campaign website. I would say one of the things that this is an example of all the different translations that we've done, just to show you how it can work in different languages. And you'll see at the bottom of these posters, we've included the partner organizations, logos, and so on as well. So with that as background, I'd like to now move on to the panel, and I will introduce them to you, and then they will just speak as we move along. Paul Meyer is the first panelist. Paul joined the Office of Harmonization in the Internal Market, excuse me, as some of you will know as OHIM, in May 1995 as Chief Advisor to the President. From 2000 to 2005, he was responsible for the preparations of OHIM for the enlargement of the EU and the new regulation on community designs. He was nominated Director of the Designs Department in 2002, and he was President of the Board of Appeals at OHIM from December 2005 until May 2013. And since January of this year, Paul has been the new Director of the EU Observatory. The next speaker is Palin Mavida. Palin joined TOBE, one of our partners in hosting this global Congress, in 2006 in the Foreign Relations Department, and then became Executive Director of the Turkish National Committee of the ICC last year. Palin is now actively involved in leading TOBE and ICC Turkey's anti-counterfeiting and piracy initiatives, including new programs focused on building awareness. Our third speaker is Minu Chandra. Minu is an experienced legal professional, 15 years of legal experience, but she joined the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce, or FICCI, as its joint director in 2012, and she is the team leader for the FICCI's anti-counterfeiting effort, which is called Cascade. It stands for Committee Against Smuggling and Counterfeiting Activities Destroying the Economy. The fourth speaker is Marcin Mozanik. And Marcin has previously worked at the United Nations Information Center in Warsaw as a public information specialist. Excuse me. He then moved to work with Legalna Kultura Foundation, which you're going to hear about, where he's responsible for international promotion and building international relations. And the final speaker, excuse me, is Brian Monks. Brian is with Underwriters Laboratory. He'll tell you a little bit about UL, as it's commonly known, but the UL symbol is found on millions of products, And Brian is the Vice President of Anti-Counterfeiting Operations for UL, and he's worked in intellectual property enforcement for over 15 years. So with that, I'd like to ask Paul to come up and start the panel.
Good morning. Good morning, Secretary General. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's an honor, and I'm really happy to, I must say. I will say a few words first of introduction of what the EU Observatory is, so that you have an idea of what we're doing in general, and I will try to focus a little bit on what we're doing more specifically in the field of the subject of the day, which is awareness campaigns. The EU Observatory is on the fight on the infringements of intellectual property rights, is an EU agency that is a external to the institutions agency, independent, in charge of performing a certain number of tasks. Our main tasks are to study counterfeiting and piracy, because the policy move in Europe is first to understand, to study what the facts are, and then develop new policy to go forward. So our role is actually to help the institution and policymakers of the EU to prepare, on the basis of objective or scientifically established data, their actions. We do not have any operational role, but we do bring together a network of public and private sectors with interests in counterfeiting in the European area and beyond, and we do collaborate indeed with everybody who has a role to play there. We actually have 4 types of actions. The first one is, as I said already, studying matters, looking into things, launching scientific studies on a certain number of subjects, and I will come back to it. From this, the idea is also to start awareness campaigns and to help work on the awareness of the importance of intellectual property in the European Union and beyond. Third, a very important field of action for us, in which we've been quite active already, is training. Training for all enforcement authorities in the European Union. That includes judges, customs, police, and other enforcement authorities. I would like to say that we've been working on the training of judges for a while. The observatory was handed over to our office through a community regulation less than a year ago, but we had started 3 years ago already to bring specialized judges in trademark and designs matters to Alicante. More than 600 have come, have shared, a number of them on several occasions, and I think that one can say that nowadays, when it comes to trademark and design law in Europe, judges from each country know who their peers are in others, and that, I can say, is going to change the picture on how law will be implemented and applied by judges all over Europe. We also have plans to make training for customs authorities in collaboration, of course, with our colleagues and friends from the European Commission, DG TaxSud. We're looking presently at the training needs in that respect, police, etc., etc. A number of these trainings, of course, will be and are organized in collaboration with other bodies like Europol, Interpol, and Eurojust. Last but not least, we do have a certain number of projects that we bring together and that we prepare and we implement in order to help enforcement authorities to perform their duties. Okay? I will not speak about that because it's not the subject of the day, but indeed we are working on a number of these things, which are toolkits, bringing together the various elements that already exist, making gap analysis, and making sure that we have a good response to the needs. The first study I would like to speak about is the IP study on the IP-intensive industries in Europe. You heard yesterday already that in the United States of America, the Department of Commerce and the USPTO have performed a major study. Well, basically what we want to do in Europe is to do a parallel exercise. Because we also want to have a situation in which comparisons can be made between the United States of America and Europe. The study that will be performed in Europe, though, has a wider range, in the sense that our first phase will completely cover what the Americans did. We will look at how many people are employed in IP-intensive industries, whether they're employed directly or indirectly, how much value added in GDP is created in those industries. The American figures, as you heard yesterday already, is close to 28% of the jobs in the economy are jobs generated by such industries, and close to 35% of the GDP, which already demonstrates, by the way, that, of course, these jobs are probably better paid because the overall part is bigger. What the EU study will give, I cannot tell you. My chief economist said I will not give you the provisional figures because I know you will tell them in public. So we're still revising it, but at the end of June, at the very latest, the first part of the study will be made public. In a second move, we will go further in detail. We will look at what we've done sector by sector, and we will make a comparison between industries in these IP-intensive sectors. On the one hand, those industries that really have above-average recourse to trademarks, patents, designs, etc., to those of the same sector which do not do so. And there, I think that we will have an answer to what our American professor said yesterday. We will see whether the industries that heavily invest in intellectual property really generate more growth, more employment, more value added. This part of the study, however, will take a bit longer, and this will take us probably until November of this year. Now, you will tell me, what does that have to do with awareness? Well, we think, and it is obvious to us, in Europe we have suffered one major setback with the refusal by the European Parliament of ratifying the ACTA agreement. Our members of Parliament rejected massively the ratification of this treaty on the basis that the only figures that are available are figures from the lobbies. So we need hard figures. And we've heard also in some of our working groups that even our enforcement authorities need to be convinced sometimes that what they do is important, not only for a certain number of private companies, but for the general good, and that IP is important for our economies. So we're pursuing on that. Awareness. Well, on awareness, there are several things that our office has done or has started to do. The first thing that we did is that we have created a repository of awareness campaign, what we call the toolkit, because indeed an awful lot has been done already in the European Union. You will hear some of it today. It's one of the examples of a campaign that's included in the toolkit. It will be accessible from our website. It's more than 90 campaigns, and all the people have agreed that these can be reused. We have a library of studies and research, and we have launched a major study to try and understand the basic knowledge of European consumers in intellectual property. The study has 3 phases. First, the desk research, which was completed, and the qualitative part, which is now finalized, but we do not have the final analysis, so we'll give you 2 words about it before. And the third phase, which will be a quantitative part. We will actually interrogate 26,500 Europeans on what is their state of awareness or understanding of IP. Do they know what IP is? Do you know what a patent is? Do you have some idea of what a patent is? Do you think intellectual property is important for you as a person, for the people you work for your country, for Europe? This is the sort of questions we will be asking. On the basis of that, of course, we want to know what sort of messages could be more effective to convince citizens of the importance of IP protection. Who would be the best messengers, actually? A number of questions BASCAP, and Bill spoke about it, has already asked, but we will do this for the entire 27 members of the European Union, plus Croatia, which will join us very soon. As I said, we've had these first elements of the study. So we had the qualitative interviews in a number of European countries. We have so far more than 100 cumulated hours of interviews with various focus groups, etc., which can be split in focus groups of people from 25 to 45 years old, specific working groups for 46-year-olds and older, and what we call triads. They were smaller groups where we spoke to younger people. On that basis, we try to know what their feeling is. As I said, it's only very preliminary, but obviously the European citizen is aware that protecting creation, protecting innovation is very important. There is a feeling, I would say, of natural justice, that if you create something, it belongs to you and others should not be allowed to take it away from you. This is the positive message. There are less positive ones, of course. People think, why should I not download if it's free and nobody kicks my butt if I do so? They think the authorities should sometimes come in more strongly to defend intellectual property. We hope to be able to give a full report on our study by the end of July of this year. So I will stop with this very frustrating conclusion that if you're a little patient, you will learn a lot about the perception of IP by the European citizens. Thank you very much indeed.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you today. As been introduced already, I'm Pelin Mavili, the Executive Director of ICC Turkey. Let me shortly inform you about what ICC Turkey doing at all in Turkey is. ICC, Bill didn't mention that much. ICC is an international business organization. I know most of you are aware via your work, actually. We are working on 130 countries at the moment and representing around 6.5 million companies. And ICC Turkey is based in TOB, which is the Union of Chambers and Commodity Exchanges of Turkey. So we have an organic relations with the Chamber Union in Turkey, which hosts us. Its president is our president all the time. However, we have our own budget and our own work plan, which is in line with the one of ICC. What we do on the field of IPR in Turkey is in coordination with the work of TOB and ICC and BASCAP at the same time. Let me say a few words what TOB does in this field, actually. TOBB is working via its sectoral assemblies, and one of these sectors are Patent and Trademark Attorneys Sectoral Assembly. It's the main body which is working on IPR. However, there are different sectors which is of course related to IPR issues like cosmetics, automotive, healthcare, and therefore TOBB has a cross-sectoral approach in dealing with IPR issues. However, all these sectoral assemblies are mainly doing some kind of research and also working on the legislations. And the practical aspects of this issue is mainly dealt via ICC Turkey. And ICC Turkey does this via its Intellectual Property Commission. We have an IPR commission, which is parallel to that of ICC. And we are in touch with BASCAP, and we are working closely with them to coordinate our IPR work. So how did this story start? Dates back to 2011, where we organized a big conference together with BASCAP in Turkey. And we introduced 2 reports of BASCAP actually on IPR in Turkey and its effects. It was the main event that we undertake. However, we needed to follow up the results of this fantastic conference. There were really important outcomes of these reports. However, as we didn't have an institutional framework to follow this up, it took us a while. So we decided to form our IPR Commission so that we would have the necessary framework to follow up all these issues with the related authorities so that we can lobby or we can organize events via our commission. And our first commission meeting was held in March 2012, so it's almost a 1-year-old body within ICC Turkey. And we decided to work on mainly awareness improvement issues because there are different organizations in Turkey already being NGOs working on the legislations and drafting opinions on the upcoming legislations. Therefore, we decided to focus more on awareness improvement. We know that it's a long way through. It's not a short-term goal. It will take some while for us to, of course, improve awareness, but we had to start from some point. And we decided to adopt ICC's I Buy Real campaign indeed in Turkey, which Bill just briefly already explained. So it's a BASCAP initiative which has run already in many countries. However, we decided to adopt some of the documentation of ICC Turkey when considering the Turkish public attitude in the issues. Within this campaign, we aim to reach end users. We thought that, organizing events, conferences, seminars would be an option to approach IPR. However, we thought it would be better to get in touch with the consumer somehow, because even if we organize such events, they wouldn't be included in them. They wouldn't come knowing the Turkish consumers' attitude. So we thought we should go to them somehow. We should reach them. Therefore, we created a kind of public-private alliance, because we have at the moment support of prominent companies within Turkey. Some of them are being represented here at the moment, as well as public authorities, which is, I think, very crucial for the success of our campaign, because their support, their backing is really valuable. At this moment, I would really like to thank our Ministry of Culture and Tourism, definitely, for their support, and Ministry of Customs and Trade, definitely, as well as Turkish National Police, who is doing actually a great job at the moment in this field. So what we plan to do is, we already shoot a public TV ad in Turkey. In televisions, before TV commercials, you have a few minutes where you can show public ads free of charge. So we shoot a short film for that, where actually celebrities even played a role free of charge, because they know the importance of the issue, especially authors, singers, and designers. I would really love to show it to you at the moment, but I can't, because I will be launching it tomorrow together with the Minister of Culture and Tourism, His Excellency Ömer Çelik, and my President Rifat Sarcıklıoğlu, in a large event in front of the media. Therefore, it will be definitely online at the ICC Turkey webpage. I would really love if you can have a look at it on Monday, maybe. And we will also organize tomorrow on the IP Day a big event in one of the prominent shopping malls in Turkey. So that will be after the closing of the conference. So if you would want to visit us in Canyon Shopping Mall tomorrow at around 2, we will have some celebrities visiting our booth, also some business people visiting, and some BASCAP members will be there. So they will be getting in touch with Turkish press, as well as with the end users within the shopping mall. So we will have a large event. Indeed, we plan to create awareness via our local network. TOBB has chambers in all of the cities in Turkey. So in all 81 provinces, we will distribute our documentation, our posters, our films, and tomorrow we will declare a kind of private sector declaration why counterfeiting and piracy is bad for economy and for the public as well. So that these all documents will be distributed to all countries. And after that, we plan to actually go on kind of a road show and organize this shopping mall event in a few more cities in the upcoming days. I just want to, this is the end of my presentation, but I just want to say a few more words on the lessons learned from our awareness improvement campaign, indeed. What I observe in this period, I haven't long been in this sector, like someone sitting around this panel even worked for these issues for more than 20 years. I've been in this field for more than a year only. But what I observe is mainly there are really goodwill within the private sector. They are doing a lot, but they are doing it not with a perfect, effective coordination. There are many business organizations dealing with IPR issues, but I believe if we are better coordinated, at least as good coordinated as the ones who are doing counterfeiting and piracy, we could have been even more successful, I believe. I mean, we are all kind of spending money and efforts on this issue, but effective coordination would definitely be a better use of sources. And I really believe public sector is a key, public support is a key for our success, because at the end of the day, whatever we propose as the private sector to them, they are the ones who will be doing the enforcement part. So public-private cooperation in this field is a key factor. And lastly, I want to mention the financing of awareness improvement projects is definitely a big issue. I mean, I believe that in IPR sections in all of the companies, of course, there are profit-generating parts in the short run. These departments, I believe, do not get that much of funding, but there are a lot to be done in this awareness field. Therefore, I really believe that we should kind of seek more funding, also maybe look at international funding possibilities while running such campaigns. And as I said, if we can coordinate all our efforts, this financing would be definitely used even in a better and effective way. So this is all I want to say for the time being, and I would love to answer any of the questions in the discussion section. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the Secretary General. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here, and thank you, Bill, again for that. I think the starting point of my presentation would have to be BASCAP, but before I do, I'd like to introduce FICCI. FICCI is the apex body in the National Chamber in India, which works across industry sectors, and we try to follow the mission of being the industry's voice for policy change. Now, within FICCI, we work on various sectors, as I said, and we have sectoral committees, just like my colleague Pelin talked about the framework of ICC Turkey. So we follow a sort of similar structure. Now, within FICCI, our industry members came to us initially in the year 2000 and started discussing about the issues of counterfeiting and piracy and how it's, of course, affecting the industry. So we have private sector representatives from the pharma, the automobile sector, mostly the automotive components sector, computers, hardwares, software, mobile, FMCG. All these were plagued, and we sort of decided to form an initiative in the form of Cascade, as we call it, the Committee Against Smuggling and Counterfeiting Activities Destroying the Economy. Now, this committee had various forms, and my colleague would be talking a little bit more in detail about the history of this. I'm going to just focus on what we are doing in the consumer awareness space. So the committee, of course, had a four-pronged agenda, and awareness being the topmost amongst consumers. Then also we are working to look at sensitizing and sort of building an awareness within the enforcement agencies. And Bill, I completely agree with you that even the public officials need to be educated on IP generally and respect for IP and why IP is so important for the economy. So that's something that we are working on. And as I said, I'll focus on the first two aspects, and my colleague would be talking about the research and law reforms section tomorrow. So the challenges that we started facing even as a committee were, we could see that there is very little respect for brand integrity. So yes, everybody understands what a trademark is, but really is there any care about that? the enforcement itself, the priority of the enforcement agencies keeps shifting, and we can't really blame them for that because the infrastructure is so low in terms of manpower and resources, and as a result, there is the challenge of enforcement. And of course, as the BASCAP study already gives you the figures within India as well, there is a big chunk of consumers who think it's all right to buy, and that was our starting point really, where we said, well, that perception needs to change because they need to understand how it's going to harm them. So we sort of began in the year 2012 with a big campaign with the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, which was aligned to the already existing consumer campaign of the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. This campaign is called Jago Grahak Jago, which is basically translated means consumers arise and awake. And this really, just to give you a flavor of what came out of it in terms of the kind of posters, this is just one of them. We did a couple of them where there are some key messages in the text, and I just try to explain them very quickly to you. The text at the top right, Chuno Wahi Jo Sahi, which means choose the right one. So we are trying to, of course, connect with the consumer at the masses, grassroots level, where they make the right choice for themselves. And then there's a big sort of text which talks about the impact. But again, the key message is you're going to have an impact on your child's safety if you're going to buy baby food which is fake, or medicines. And the other messages that were percolated was loss of employment because of industries shutting down as a result of illegitimate trade increasing. So there were a couple of such messages which went through, and there's another campaign being launched on the 30th of April this month, again on the same lines. We also wanted to go to the youth, and we sort of believe that it's the youth in any country which is going to bring about a mindset change if we want to achieve anything over a period of time. We've seen that already in India with saying no to firecrackers and go green. So these two movements have really been picked up by school students, youth in college, and we thought that we should tap into those energies and resources. So we have done a couple of exercise in different parts of our country. This was the first youth festival launched last year through the Ministry of Consumer Affairs again. And as you can see, there is a depiction through various creative arts, one of them being a street play. And this one was with music in terms of using parodies, where the lines that were being used, and I'll just translate them for your benefit, which meant there is something wrong. So it was a very sort of a Bollywood song which was rejigged to actually convey a message that there is something going wrong around us when we buy stuff which is counterfeit or fake. Within the same youth festival, we had a painting competition again on the theme, and these were like 14 years old students who were just briefed about the issue, and they started thinking about it. And there are some 30 odd very nice paintings, there are more, but we've compiled them in the form of a catalog which is also available on website free of charge. Would invite you to have a look at the sentiments of the youth in that context. And as you can see, the youth has started thinking about it, and we want them to keep thinking about it through these kind of activities where we are looking at the images of Gandhi being the legacy that we have and how our nation is being affected by the scourge of piracy and counterfeiting. This is a depiction of another youth festival which we did in Srinagar. I hope you've all heard of Kashmir, of course, and Srinagar has now sort of been approachable for us even within India. So we decided to go and have a youth festival and a sensitization exercise. This is again a depiction of students of business school in the Islamic University in Srinagar, where they actually, I was quite amazed that without much of an educative exercise, they were able to look at the whole supply chain issue right from the bottom, where there is a craftsman who weaves a shawl in Srinagar, and how the intermediaries play with the supply chain, and the impact, of course, it has on the money that the artisan is getting and the fakes that are being put into the market. Of course, the enthusiasm of the crowd. Then we also, as I said, we think that it's not only the public which needs to be educated, but also the enforcement officials. So we've already started working with customs officials across India, and not only are we talking about sharing information between brand owners, but also giving them the sense of how important this problem is for the Indian economy specifically. And within our state awareness seminars, we are trying to integrate and initiate a debate with all stakeholders pan-India at every state capital. So we've already traversed around 10 odd states within the span of last 1 year. And we're trying to create a high issue recall on this subject, and of course also identify some state-specific issues. And very quickly, I'll just run through them. Although the final take is that it is rampant across India, but within these 1 year worth of activities, we can see that there are some specific kinds of sectors which are prevalent in one part of the country and the other. And the north and the east, which is sort of more like Kolkata and areas like that, we can see medicines always tops the list. We have tobacco products which are all are bordering. The states which have borders with various countries have tobaccos as an issue. And of course, industries where there are jewelry and gold, which is part of that industry, specific to a state, you have even jewelry which is being affected as a sector. And Srinagar has its saffron being counterfeited, which was a complete eye-opener to me personally. And we're more and more aligning, and I'm going to run short of time, so I'm just going to quickly run through, more and more aligning with the consumer rights movement in India and keeping the focus on how a consumer can become more and more aware. We're going to have another state seminar in Chandigarh this month. And finally, this is just a set of figures which I'll share with you that we released last December, and the Ministry of Consumer Affairs was very instrumental. So we have, and more about this study would be discussed tomorrow in the other session that my colleague is taking, but this is just to give you the flavor of what we found within India. Thank you. I've almost finished in time. Thank you very much.
Mr. Secretary General, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting us to this Congress. It poses a great chance and an opportunity for Legalna Kultura, since the project and the campaign began exactly a year ago, in April 2012. In the presentation, which I will be showing to you in just a minute, you will hear a catchphrase which we use and which we like to use, which is a positive campaign. What does it mean? A positive campaign is all about not using accusations. We're not telling people to use legal assets of art and culture, because something like illegal art does not exist. We are telling them to use legal sources. What more, we are trying to change their awareness. We are trying to make people more aware of the sources they are using. For example, we're telling them what legal sources of culture are. We are telling them how to use them, and what's more important, where they can find them. And we came to the conclusion that a positive campaign is the only way to go, because telling people that what they are doing is bad, simply stealing, is not the proper way to go. Now, the beginning of Legalna Kultura was very hard. Many challenges evolved, and as Paul mentioned earlier, we also had many problems with ACTA due to the fact that we were ready to launch the campaign, just as the great protests in Poland and in the whole of Europe started an outburst. We also had many financial problems.
meaning obtaining sponsors and people who would fund us, mainly due to the fact that no one believed in the campaign, but we all managed to prove them wrong and proved that the campaign was a huge success. And before we run the presentation, I would like to leave you with two main ideas of Legalna Kultura. I would like you to consider them while watching the presentation. First of all, you can't be just a little bit fair. And second, people given the chance and the right opportunity will always choose to go legal instead of going illegal. Could we run the presentation now?
Czy ściągają Państwo filmy z internetu czasem? No chyba każdemu się zdarza.
Czasami tak.
Czyli uważasz, że powinno być to legalne?
A nie jest?
Ale robicie, czyli kradniecie.
Żartowałem, nie robimy. Nie wiem, gdzie.
I co od razu okradę? No czasami nam się zdarza.
Gdyby się okazało, że patrzą na Was teraz polscy filmowcy, co byście im powiedzieli?
Że sorry.
Jak wrażenia po filmie?
Prawda? Żarty, dokładnie.
To było na serio? To chyba jakiś jaja był.
Nie wiem, jak można takie rzeczy robić publicznie, to chyba jakaś kpina. Nie było żadnego filmu.
A teraz już wiem, dlaczego dostałam to zaproszenie.
The movie, Sorry Filmmakers, was awarded a special prize in a contest for film school students and was co-organized by Legalna Kultura and Gdynia Film Festival. Legalna Kultura is a public awareness campaign that started exactly a year ago. It is a commonwealth of artists and consumers of culture. The campaign promotes the use of culture from legal sources. It fosters a responsibility for culture with its consumers and focuses attention on the way it is embraced. Legalna Kultura appeals to all audiences, also to people who understand what legal sources of culture are. It is a positive campaign which shows the way to use the artist's work in an aware and responsible manner. The project was awarded with a special yearly prize by the Minister of Culture and National Heritage for its contribution to culture on the internet. The strategic campaign partners are the Polish Film Institute and the Ministry of Culture and National Heritage. Among the supporters of Legalna Kultura are national and regional media, cultural institutions, artists and others.
Nie musisz być artystą,
Żeby tworzyć
sztukę.
korzystając z legalnych
Źródeł tworzysz ją z nami.
korzystając
Z legalnych źródeł wspierasz kulturę! Nie tylko osobistą.
Nearly 50 artists took part in the campaign. Its ideas are supported by more than 300 art creators. Legalna Kultura is all about education. In our actions, we focus chiefly on copyright and intellectual property protection, responsible ways of using cultural assets, conscious ways of using legal sources, how to gain access to culture in the digital age. The culture consumers' bond with the artists is reinforced by interviews with the artists and other publications and movies on our website. A similar role is played by statements made by stars and experts on TV and radio stations, as well as those of campaign ambassadors.
Dzień dobry, nazywam się Piotr Mec i nie używam ani lewego czeskiego alkoholu, ani podrabianych dżinsów, ani pirackich płyt. Po pierwsze, bardzo niezdrowo, po drugie, koszmarnie obcze.
Legal sources of culture. Here you can access pieces of artistic work with the preservation of all rights of the artists. On our website, you'll find a bank of websites with legal content. There, you're able to watch movies, listen to music and audiobooks, read e-books and press, take a virtual tour of a museum or a gallery, get acquainted with digitized archive material. Web users create this bank with us by making use of the bookmark Add a Source. So far, we've managed to gather almost 200 sources. Ask a lawyer. Here, you can write to a lawyer. You can also make contact by telephone. We have also created a teacher's zone, where they will find methodical hints, educational booklets, lesson scenarios, and a guide over educational material on the internet. Teachers and students can gain knowledge about copyright during Legalna Kultura workshops, which are led by specialists and lawyers in this field. Everyone can take part in our open meetings called Open Doors to Culture, which are organized with our partners. The mobile cinema and Legalna Kultura have formed an educational project. It reaches on a regular basis almost 160 towns without a cinema in Poland. We screen educational movies for kids and teenagers, and a classic cinema program for others. Before the shows, the viewers can get acquainted with the concept of legal culture, also presented in a young, viewer-friendly way. During the most important events and festivals in Poland, Legalna Kultura promotes the Bank of Legal Sources and its usage. We take part in cultural events such as festivals, concerts and expos. During selected events, Legalna Kultura runs an internet cafe. All of this has produced measurable results. Already, 1 in 4 Poles declares to know what Legalna Kultura is. Study results clearly support this. We asked about the acceptance of the idea. Among those who know Legalna Kultura, 71% of them support the campaign, with only 5% opposed. This clearly shows that the campaign has been highly effective. Legalna Kultura gained the highest acceptance in the 15 to 18 age group, with 86% of all respondents. This is especially significant as the project is targeting those who will shape the market and market rules in the future. We have also found out that every 1 in 4 respondents declared that the campaign raised their awareness in terms of internet content legality. That's what the consumers have to say. We've also collected the opinions of artists that were a motivation for us.
Cała ta dyskusja o legalnej kulturze, ona powinna głównie służyć wysiłkowi wymyślenia systemu, który ludzie zaakceptują jako uczciwą zapłatę. Bo każdy normalny człowiek wie, co znaczy uczciwa zapłata. Każdy, kto ściąga internetu rzeczy za darmo, także pracuje z reguły i także spodziewa się wynagrodzenia za swoją pracę. A więc też nie powinno go dziwić, że trzeba wynagrodzić tego, który ukochany utwór stworzył. Tylko trzeba wymyślić nowy system, który jest bezinwazyjny i który wydaje się akceptowalny.
Czuję się całkowicie bezbronna wobec tych, którzy nielegalnie rozpowszechniają filmy i muzykę. Mam nadzieję, że tego nie robisz.
Myślę sobie, że zawsze istnieje szansa poprawy. Jeżeli ktoś dostrzeże w swoim życiorysie szansę na poprawę, to zawsze ma taką szansę i ja go zawsze przyjmę z otwartymi rękoma. Nawet jeżeli sprzedał 1 milion moich płyt i powie, że to było niedobre, to ja mu wybaczę.
Ten utwór dedykuję wszystkim, którzy korzystają z legalnych źródeł kultury.
Your support matters. Thank you.
Now, the people you've seen, thank you. Thank you very much. That was very heartwarming. And I would like to gather a round of applause for our president who is present with us. Kinga, would you kindly stand up and take a bow? She's sitting there. This all wouldn't have happened if it weren't for her. Now, it came to my knowledge, don't worry, I won't bore you with any more details and statistical data, that we have 2 recent achievements. One of them is from 2 days back and the other one is from yesterday. And keeping it short, you've seen and you probably all know the web service Deezer. They agreed and they have now on their website our logo, which says that they are using legal content. And this also is very heartwarming for us. Secondly, we have recently expanded our web page, which wasn't actually shown in the video, by the section of games, which of course are another part of culture. And for our plans for the future, we are currently working on a photo section, which we will launch in more or less a month. And just before the summer holidays, we are planning to launch a personal output exchange or a personal output market. We haven't agreed on a name yet, which will enable consumers to post their material and get it opposed to the material of the professionals. So it also has an educational value for those people. And with this, I would like to end my presentation and say once more, thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Secretary General, for the privilege of speaking here today. I have a 60-page report here on education, on IP, and I think I'll get done by 6 o'clock tonight. Oh, by 6 o'clock tonight, you can bear with me. I'll go through the report page by page, statistic by statistic, but I'm not going to do that. Generally, I talk about putting people in jail, going after crooks. This is the softer side of me. I'm going to talk about education. And we're looking at really the supply and demand curve, trying to educate people that counterfeiting isn't really going to be productive. It's not the way to run in society. And just took this quote from WIPO. We've got to go down to the very lowest levels, get to the children. They're the next consumers. Those are the people that are going to be driving the economy. And I did take this advice. It's an excellent program you have. And, you know, it is good to work with, we work with the police all the time. We do the arrest. But after a while, it's like the whack-a-mole. You're trying to just, step on these bugs, and they keep coming around, and you really can't do it that way. You have to have different approaches. In fact, in our program at UL, and UL is a test laboratory, we test almost everything in this room electrically, the lights, your Blackberries, the computers, the receptacles, anything you can get anything come give you a shock, we test to make sure that the world is a safer place. And these products won't harm you. Unfortunately, a lot of these criminals, these counterfeiters, could care less, and they put out these dangerous products. So we do the supply side. We go after the criminals, but now we're talking about educating children. We did a study last year with the Cohen Group out in New York, and we interviewed 2,400 children in 10 countries. And the report is open. I can send that report to people if you'd like to have it later on. We can email it to you. And the report had a couple of interesting tidbits. Some of them have been talked about already over the last couple of days. But one of the things I thought was interesting was the younger respondents report that they're really aware of piracy. They understand it more than the adults. A lot of the adults feel nothing wrong with buying counterfeit product and bringing it to their homes, be it a counterfeit handbag or any other product. They believe that because they can't afford the real product, that it's socially acceptable to buy the counterfeit product. They don't mind buying counterfeit product if it doesn't pose a risk to life and health. And they actually believe it's just a way of life. This is how things should be. So a lot of this has to be changed on the awareness. 2 out of 5 caregivers have discussed the negative effects of counterfeiting piracy on the child, with the child. So basically, they're not really getting this positive message all the time. A lot of the caregivers reported, or the children, that it's not their job to report or to explain the problems with counterfeit products. It's schools, other educational institutions, the government should make the children aware. So a little disconnect also in that role. At UL, we partner with Disney. I think Disney is the premier organization that can relate to children and get messages across. And we've done this since 2006, a whole myriad of different types of safety campaigns. The last one we just did was on bullying in schools. That's become a global problem now with this texting and other electronic means that children are being bullied. So we put that out and did a video. They're using we used two characters in this video, and it's the Disney character is called Timon and Pumbaa, and this kind of reminds me of some of my staff. No, it doesn't. I'm kidding. But one of the things is to really go back and gear this video to the 4- and 8-year-olds, to the younger children, and with positive messages. You cannot say to a child, counterfeiting or stealing. It doesn't work. So we talk about honesty, honest and real. I think you mentioned about it has to be a positive response. So what we're doing, we have a 12-minute video, and I'm only going to show a portion of this video because of time constraints, and it's in the raw form. This is where we've just put in the animation to the script. Disney's still working on this. We expect to have this video completed at the 2013 IP Crime Conference, Interpol IP Crime Conference in October. So I'm just going to show the video in a second. I hope it works.
No doubt I didn't say this part. Can't do without it. It's really so important that you always have to shout. Gotta get to take this part. Oh yeah! You gotta get to take this part. That means you. You gotta get to take it. Gotta get to take it. Gotta get to take this part. Oh yeah!
Oh, you can. And now, since we're finished here, we can run into town and get the things we need for tonight's party.
Oh, we can get a congratulations present for Hilda, too.
Great idea.
She might like some music.
We could pick that up as well.
Nah, we don't have to pay for that, Pumbaa. We can get it off the internet for free.
But that's stealing.
No, it's not.
Sure it is. Someone worked hard to create that music. And if you steal it without paying for it, that's not fair.
I guess that's not being honest or kind.
No, it's not.
Psst. Yeah, you guys. Check out what I got. Better prices than the store for the same stuff.
Better prices, Pumbaa? That sounds like a great deal.
I don't have a good feeling about this.
Yeah, I got the latest movies, clothes, toys, you name it. I got it.
Wow, Pumbaa, this one's still in the movie theaters, but he's already got it for sale.
That doesn't sound right, Timon. These might be fake or stolen. That's illegal. Hey, remember what we learned about character?
Sure I do. Honesty, kindness, and responsibility. Well, what does that have to do with getting a good deal on some stuff? We didn't steal it.
But buying stolen goods is the same as if we did the stealing. And if they are stolen, that would be hurtful to their rightful owner. If we then buy those stolen goods, we're giving the criminals money, which encourages them to go out and steal more. And if we encourage someone to keep doing something wrong, that's not being responsible.
Hey, just take a look, guys. I got some really good stuff. I think his name is Timon or something like that.
Timon.
That's it. Timon. Oops. Try this one.
Oh, that's terrible. It doesn't even look like me.
That's what can happen when you buy illegal goods. They can be really poorly made.
Ugh, I'll say.
And the illegal products aren't as good as the real thing, which means that you aren't really getting a good deal at all. Toys break quicker, clothing tears, medicines don't work, electronics don't work, and none of that is being safety smart.
But Pumbaa, how do you know if what you're buying is illegal?
You can't always tell, but if you get a funny feeling, like we did about that guy, you should trust that feeling and not buy from them.
You were right, Pumbaa. And now I'm really glad we didn't buy anything from him. Kinda even feel a little proud of myself.
And that feeling of pride comes from making good choices.
You know, it makes me feel so spectacular, I kind of want to sing about it.
You don't have to twist my tusk to get me to join you.
Me, you. Hit it, maestro.
Honest and real, yeah. Honest and real, yeah. When it comes to being smart about how you act and feel, you should be up.
Well, that's just a rough animation, of course. The finished product will look like what Disney puts out, a superb product. And it will be available in 36 languages, and it will go around the world. And hopefully this is the message that we want to give to the children. And children do educate their parents. They will go home and they will tell their parents, hey, that's not right, you shouldn't be buying those bags, and their peers. We're also looking at doing something for teenagers or even adults, and that will be a video game with Interpol, and that will be with the Marvel Comics, the Iron Man series type thing. So it'll be quite big, and we want to get the message into that video game that it's not cool to counterfeit. So with that, I'd like to finish up, and again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the panelists for the excellent, informative, but also, I believe, really entertaining presentations you gave, and also for staying on time. As a result of that, we have time a few more minutes. I want to do something a little different, if I could. We only had allowed time for the panel of 5 panelists, but I had a strong interest expressed from the Moldova the Intellectual Property Office. So if you could just take maybe just 2 minutes, if we could get a microphone over here. This is Lou Tiganis from the State Agency of Intellectual Property for Moldova, and he is head of the IP Observatory in Moldova as well. And he asked if he could make an intervention, so I'd like to give him, but please keep it very brief. We just have a couple minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, William. Once the Republic of Moldova ratified the TRIPS agreement in 2002, we proposed to achieve 3 main goals on behalf of the country. First of all, drafting a perfect legislation. Second, holding professional and solid institution. And third, public awareness. The last goal, but not least important, on the contrary, most complicated and dangerous mission. I assume to mention this due to the fact that a bad awareness campaign leads to disastrous consequences, since a strategic and balanced approach can have amazing effects. Public awareness campaign was held in the previous year and lasted 6 months, being based on non-stop regime throughout the country. The efficiency of the campaign has been achieved because of the following aspects. A professional team, totally devoted to the main scope of the campaign, able to manage organizational arrangements up to the smallest detail. For performing a public survey, conclusion of which helped to a better understanding of the society attitude towards the piracy and counterfeiting phenomena. A balanced strategy and a comprehensive action plan. Use of all marketing tools, including those less common, such as flash mobs, social networking, funny publicity in the markets, pharmacies, and public transport. Speaking about the bad side of the campaign, we can state the lack of support from the right holders. As a result of the campaign, 3 basic conclusions has been identified. First of all, we are on a good way and should follow this vector. Second, involvement of the right holders is very, very important. And third, the campaign message should be readdressed to the new generation. Therefore, in the current year, we are working on a new awareness campaign valid for next 2 years, with the hope that it will be implemented in every school of Moldova. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, we still have a few minutes. Anybody have any questions from the floor? Any questions? Anybody? Yes. I don't see it. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, this is Tanmay from Shell. It's very interesting to see a perspective on education which is targeted largely at consumers. I'd like to ask the panel what their thoughts are on intermediaries, which we talked about yesterday. I think education is also a very important component of convincing them to focus on genuine products. Is there any example or any thoughts that you can share with regards to that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's hard to hear up here on the stage, but I believe the question was, what about creating awareness among the intermediary population, so the suppliers, all the other players in the intermediaries in the supply chain? Is that the question? Maybe you want to start?
I could give you an example of one of the automotive players in India. We have, I'm not sure if you're aware of them, Maruti Suzuki is one of the major car manufacturers in India, and they were facing this issue of counterfeits in their spare parts. So they launched an aggressive campaign called Maruti Genuine Parts, and they actually made a new brand out of it, and have done a pan-India educational campaign with their own distributors. In that context. Of course, they do consumer awareness, and they've done radio campaigns and cartoons and all those sorts. But specific to your question, they have actually done workshops with their own distributors to make sure that they understand why it's important for them to not have the leakage in the supply chain, so to speak. And many more players are now trying to replicate that example in India in various sectors.
I'd just like to add to that you heard one of the speakers yesterday refer to a study that, actually it's a report that BASCAP is preparing that will be done by the end of this year, which we hope will be an educational tool to use with intermediaries to not only make sure they're aware of the problem that the organized criminal networks are infiltrating the supply chain, and then the second point being that they share a responsibility along with others in the supply chain for stopping that infiltration. So we hope that we'll be publicizing that report extensively once we get it finished, in the hope that that will also become a public awareness tool, but also a tool directed at the intermediaries themselves. Anybody else?
Well, if I can say a word. We're, of course, only in the very beginning with the observatory, but it is certain that we intend not to forget anybody that has an importance in the trade of counterfeit goods, and also in terms not only repressive, being after them or the rest of it, but also under two different aspects. One is voluntary agreements, and we've done quite a bit already in Europe with a memorandum of understanding against the sale of counterfeit goods over the internet. The second thing is, of course, direct training, if need be, also directed to these people. We strongly believe that the whole of the economy, once they understand how important intellectual property is, will also actually change their view as to reselling, using for the computer, reselling for the intermediaries a certain number of counterfeits. There's not only the public health issue, which is of course formidably important, or the safety issue, but also the fact that these people must be made aware that their contribution to the non-well-being of the economy, especially in these times, can be quite considerable. We certainly intend to work on this as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? There's another one right behind the other questioner.
Hans Fuchs from China Brand Consulting. All these campaigns target visible infringement, mainly trademark infringement. This is original Levi's jeans and this is a fake Levi's jeans, so the consumer has the chance to make the difference. What are you doing if the infringement is not visible? In many or maybe most cases, there's technology inside. The infringement is inside a device, a vacuum cleaner, for example, or the structure of a textile. So how to communicate this in these cases? How to create awareness if the infringement is not visible?
Yeah, I hope all of you heard the question. The question is, how do you communicate awareness about a infringement where it's not visible to the consumer? Either technology inside or medicines perhaps where you don't know if they're counterfeit and they produce no results for you. Question?
Okay, if I understood the question correctly, we are building on our website a bank of legal sources in which the general population and all the public can gain knowledge of what a legal source is, that's firstly, and secondly, what the legal sources are, meaning, for example, we had in the presentation Deezer, we had Spotify, I believe we had the National Museum of Poland, and we talk about those things during our workshops, during the lectures which we provide, and we're trying to distinguish between these two things during those events.
Yeah, one of the things we do in the observatory is to bring, and we have just created a subgroup of that. We want to make available lists of sites from which you can be certain that you get the real product, okay? Not only in cultural matters. And there are a number of initiatives also in Europe for real brands, etc., that we want to spread. The second thing is, of course, we need to inform the consumer. On our website there will be a consumer corner on which a certain number of elements will be given, okay? Thirdly, we will also identify methods by which the counterfeiters or the pirates come to the consumer and try to help by that through this intelligence to help enforcers to be more efficient. Last but not least, you were speaking actually basically of patents. It's true, a consumer does not know whether a patent is violated, and I don't think he will ever know that, okay? It's formidably difficult to determine this. We also have a legal situation, certainly in the European Union, which is a bit less clear because we still have national patents, and indeed a product can be protected through patents in some of the countries and not necessarily in others. That makes it a bit more complicated. But that doesn't mean that we will not look at the matter and try to do our best to make sure that these infringements also are stopped.
This was an issue that we also discussed with the members of our commission, actually. You cannot hear. Can you hear it now? Okay. This was an issue as well we discussed with our commission members. There were two types of companies. One, directly that you can observe the infringement, like clothing or trademarks that you can obviously observe that you use the counterfeit goods deliberately, the end users, I mean. But in some cases, the end user is not aware. This is something we also discussed. This is very important. This is another step forward in our efforts. We plan to divide the group into two and therefore address the needs of the others, which you mentioned, that the consumer is not aware. At the very first stage, we want to give the feeling to the consumer that we should agree that it's bad to use counterfeited and pirate goods. And at the second step, we will work on this issue explicitly, that saying, okay, counterfeiting is good, but sometimes you're not aware that you are using them. Now you should open your eyes. So this is a step forward in our campaign, which we will also consider.
Chandra, can you keep, we're
running
very
over. Quick. As I mentioned, we're doing these state capital awareness seminars. When one of the things that I didn't mention, that we always have a consumer rights group also being a part of that particular awareness campaign. And we've recently also had our industry members bring samples and actually give very no confidential information, but simple tips for an average consumer to at least know when to suspect when they've bought unknowingly a personal care product, a food product, or things which are very, sort of important from a safety aspects. So these kind of hands-on workshops and interactions, we're trying to do that going forward with consumers and end users, so that at least there is some kind of a way, because the consumer does feel helpless. How do I know whether I'm buying the genuine? So we're trying to address that in small steps. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to have to cut it off. We've run over by 3 minutes according to the official clock here. So I want to thank the audience for your interest and attention and for the excellent questions, and thank the panel and ask you to join me in thanking our experts here for the panel. Thank you very much.